Is Masataka Yoshida back? It sure seems like he might be after he strung together his second home run in as many games to give the Red Sox a big win over the Tampa Bay Rays on Monday.
You are Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Red Sox, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Gabby, former ESPN social media associate and current host of the Boston Balling Podcast, here to bring you the latest in all things Boston Red Sox, Monday through Friday, for free, straight to your favorite podcast feed. And speaking of free, SiriusXM has you covered for free for all Red Sox home broadcasts. Just download the SiriusXM app and search Red Sox, and they will give you the home broadcast of every Red Sox game. It's super nice if you're like me and don't want to miss a single pitch of a single game. Today's episode is brought to you by Sleeper. Swing for the fences on Sleeper picks, and you could win up to 100 times your money. Download the Sleeper app and use promo code LOCKEDON, and you'll get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 30 states. Check out Sleeper today. Welcome to another episode of Locked On Red Sox. Thank you for making this show your first listen of every day. The Red Sox have made that a little bit easier the last few days, as they're currently on a 3-game win streak, including 2 that they took from the Kansas City Royals, and taking the first game at the Trop against the Tampa Bay Rays. Now, I don't know about you, but I really don't like Tropicana Field. I think it's just not a good ballpark. It has weird dimensions and weird lighting, and it's just not really fit to be a major league ballpark. I almost feel badly for the Rays. I feel like they deserve a better ballpark than they have. So every time the Red Sox have to play there, I'm like, how do the Rays deal with this for just as often as they do? How do they play as many games as they do there every single year and be okay with it? I think the team deserves better. Not that that will ever happen, but because I just really can't stand that ballpark, I think that's why I always get nervous when the Red Sox go down there to play. And, when the Red Sox seem like they're dead, they always come back, and they always find some sort of spark to get fans a little bit excited again. And I'm not wild about that because they play with my emotions constantly. It's like a toxic relationship. It's like when you're with somebody and like some days things are so great and other days they're just really poor. It's the same thing with this Red Sox team. I don't even know what to believe anymore. I mean, I'm happy on this fine Tuesday morning. I'm happy that they won game 1 against the Rays, but how am I really supposed to feel about all of this? Are they going to pull me in too much to the point where I'm convinced that they're back when they're simply just not back? I'm not saying that because, again, they won 2 games against the Kansas City Royals. I could walk onto the field and probably beat the Kansas City Royals. I mean, come on here. But the Tampa Bay Rays are a good team. They've faced some injuries recently, so they have been struggling. The Orioles are still in first place in the AL East. The Rays are fighting for a wild card spot that they should be able to maintain. They're a good pace ahead of the other teams currently that are in the wild card. But it's going to be hard for them to go deep in the postseason with the injuries they had. And the Red Sox came in to the game on Monday night and almost executed everything like near perfectly. Masataka Yoshida, is he back? He had been on a little bit of a dip in terms of his batting statistics as of late, not really getting as much good contact with the baseball, not finding as much success as he had earlier on in the season. So I was worried that opposing pitchers were maybe starting to figure him out a little bit and realizing what pitches they shouldn't throw to him. It's natural when that happens, when you have a rookie who is on the older side like that, and they have experience playing professional baseball just elsewhere. They have certain pitches that they hone in on that they like to swing at. And for an opposing pitcher, they're not going to be able to know firsthand until they pitch to them what exactly those pitches are. So it seemed like at the beginning of the season, pitchers didn't know how to approach Yoshida, but now that they've faced him more and they can watch his plate approach a little bit more, they can now determine this is what we should and shouldn't throw to him. But he had a big 3-run homer in the final game of the series against the Kansas City Royals. And he also had a big home run in Monday's game against the Rays. So, I'd like to believe that this indicates that he's back. I don't think it would be very smart of me to jump in right now and say he's definitely back, because he needs to show more to prove that he's back. But hitting a massive home run 2 days in a row for the Red Sox is very telling of his ability to be able to come up big in clutch situations. Mr. Clutch, as I've called him all year, has been Justin Turner, but Yoshida definitely has the potential to be that guy. I do feel like he'll eventually be made into a DH. He is not meant to play defense, nor did they bring him here because his defense was anything stellar. So he should not be playing much in the outfield. He has not been great defensively. He's actually cost the Red Sox some games defensively. So I think the best spot for him is to DH. Ultimately, they did offer him a decent amount of money for his contract. So I don't think the Red Sox would really feel like they're spending their money wisely if they were to just make him a more full-time designated hitter. But if he can continue to come up big with runners on base, that's exactly what we need from him. I don't necessarily, can sit here and say he's for sure back, but what does back actually mean with him? He had a really good first half of the season and then has been starting to dip a little bit, but not significantly. Even his numbers now, batting around 250, those are good numbers, and he's been fluctuating and jumping up from that. And so it's not always consistent, but he's a good hitter. He's been a good hitter all season long. He just lately had been lacking that ability to get that big hit. So these last 2 games for him have been promising to me that hopefully he is back. And Triston Casas, he just continues to absolutely mash. He hit another home run on Monday. This time it was a 3-run go-ahead home run for the Red Sox, which they absolutely needed. They had been struggling to score in the game. They had scored 1 run in the 4th inning on a Duvall RBI single, but Casas didn't hit the home run until the 6th inning. It was a big 3-run home run with the Rays up 3-1, and it put the Red Sox up 4-3, and it was a lead they would never relinquish. He's just been absolutely having a phenomenal season, and when Casas is at the plate, you feel pretty good about the Red Sox chances. I've just really enjoyed watching him hit this season, and he's only further pushing that narrative of him winning Rookie of the Year. So he needs to continue to do what he's doing. Alex Cora seems to be very impressed with the Casas that we've seen all season long. And with him being the future first baseman for this team, it's always promising when he's continuing to show constant improvement. So he is on an absolute tear right now too. He's just continuing to put together very strong at-bats, and he was ultimately the hero in Monday night's game because he gave the Red Sox a lead that they just never gave up. So I love Casas. I'm a huge fan. Yoshida, I'm inclined to start to feel like is back in the way that the Red Sox have thought about him all season. Coming up, I'm going to be talking about the start that the Red Sox starting pitcher had, Brayan Bello. He looked pretty good overall against the Rays. Do you like fantasy baseball as much as I do? If you do, you have to check out Sleeper, especially because the MLB playoffs are right around the corner. So you have to try to go in and make the best picks that you possibly can, especially now because it's all the best players on there. My favorite thing about the app is they give you so many options. And if your regular fantasy baseball team is out of it, you don't have to be out of the game altogether because you can make daily fantasy picks through Sleeper and you can win a lot of money by doing so. So you don't have to give up on fantasy altogether. You can just go in and pick certain stats for certain players. Like even, for example, the month of August that Mookie Betts had, you could pick stats like home runs, hits, or strikeouts, and you could win up to a 100 times payout on it with Sleeper. So make your picks today. Use promo code LOCKEDON and you'll get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. It's really fun. I promise you, you're going to really enjoy using Sleeper for all of your fantasy needs. Brayan Bello has been a pretty consistent and solid starter for the Red Sox this season. Overall, he has pitched significantly better in night games than he has in day games throughout the course of the season. He has an ERA over 5 during day games, which is very tough. He pitches better at night. In the game against the Rays, he did look a little bit rough in the first inning. Gave up a single and a walk and then a couple hits to score some runs. Gave up 3 runs in the first inning. Brandon Lau with a 2-run single and then gave up a double after that to score another run. But the Red Sox made some nice plays in the inning to help him get out of it as well. So that was key. But after that, the Rays didn't score any runs the rest of the game, and Brayan Bello was able to get through 6 innings. That alone, to me, is impressive and shows the idea of Bello being able to adjust in pressure situations. I've been saying this about him all season long, that this is one of my favorite things about him, that he's able to stay so calm and collected on the mound, and he's able to recover when he has base traffic. The first inning was tough for him, but he held down the fort to allow the Red Sox to be able to come back and score. And he was able to keep that pressure on the Rays and absolutely shut down their lineup the rest of the way to get him through 6 innings. This start, to me, looked like the Brayan Bello that we all know and love. And I continue to preach, you have to look beyond his ERA or how many runs he's given up in certain games, because when you look at the overall pitcher, he is very, very solid. When you just think about all the situations that he's been in this season with base runners and he's able to get out of it the majority of the time, I'll take a pitcher who sometimes gives up 3 to 4 runs, but for the most part is able to get out of those jams, because for some pitchers, it's so difficult to be able to get out of those types of situations when you have runners on base. Some pitchers fold under that pressure, and it's what separates the true professionals and real legitimate starting pitchers from people who just won't last as long or will bounce from team to team. The guys who are able to adjust in game and just give their team a strong chance to win the majority of the time. And granted, he's going to have his bad outings. Every pitcher does. Nobody's perfect. But Bello doesn't have very many of those. And when he does have those, he usually bounces back pretty quickly from it. So the consistency that I've seen from him is definitely there. He right now, to me, is a number 2 starter. He's not quite ace caliber yet to me. I think he can work his way up to that. He recorded 7 strikeouts in the game against the Rays, which is a high number for him. That's a very good number, but I would like to see him record more strikeouts consistently before I'm ready to call him an ace. But when you look overall at the overall scope of what he's done for the Red Sox this season, it's hard not to feel confident going in with him next year as likely the number 2 starter. The Red Sox still need to go out and get a front end starter in the offseason, like I've said so many times already on this show. But if you could go into the season with Bello as your number 2 and preferably extend him, because now is the time to do that if they want to, that's a solid number 2 to have in your rotation. And if he can stay healthy, I truly feel like the Red Sox found a diamond in the rough with him. He's proven that he's able to pitch well against competitive lineups. He's proven that he's good under pressure and he's able to adjust. And he's proven to have had a good connection with both Connor Wong and Reese McGuire and has been able to work with them consistently and be able to maintain what he's best at and adjust to the in-game situation. So there's so many aspects of his game that I really enjoy watching. I think when it comes to his approach overall in the games, sometimes he has to feel out the hitters he's going up against, because there are a lot of times where he'll get rocked a little bit early on in the game and then he'll make the adjustments after that. So to me, it seems like once he sees a lineup one time, he feels more confident going forward in what he's working with and how he can really get out of base jams and be able to protect leads that the team has. And luckily in this situation, even though the Red Sox didn't have that lead when he gave up those runs in the first inning, they were able to come back and win the game. So you can't sit here and be at all disappointed in the start that Bello made. He's been impressive. The Red Sox absolutely should extend him as soon as possible. I'd actually be disappointed if they don't. Now is the best time with where he's at in his career to offer him that type of deal. So if he takes it, which why would he not? They can really continue to develop him as they've done so well when he's worked his way through the system, and continue to work with him, continue to develop him, and eventually he could be that ace caliber starter that the Red Sox need. Coming up next, I'm going to be addressing the Red Sox bullpen and their absolute dominance in the game on Monday, because they've really just been nails in a lot of situations this season. But don't forget, SiriusXM has you covered for the home broadcast of all Red Sox games. Just search the SiriusXM app and download it and search Red Sox there, and they have you covered for all Red Sox home broadcasts. You definitely won't want to miss that, especially in this last month of the season, wanting to see how players finish out the season, and if they do happen to squeeze into a wild card spot, which I'm still very much not convinced of. But if they do happen to, it'd be cool to be there for every step of the way. So SiriusXM has you covered for that. Don't forget, you can follow me on Twitter at GabbyHurlbut10 and follow the show on Twitter at LO_Red Sox. And you can continue the conversation that way, because like I always say, what's fun without having other interactions and listening to different perspectives from other people? It's so important. So check me out on Twitter, check out the show on Twitter, and don't forget, you can get the show Monday through Friday for free straight to your favorite podcast feed, and I will have you covered with all things Red Sox on all of those days. And whatever emotion you're feeling, I promise I'm feeling the same thing. But what I'm not feeling right now is frustration or anger, because the Red Sox provided a win on Monday, so I don't have to feel those things. Don't you love when that happens, when your team revolves your emotions and controls your emotions? Because I certainly feel that way, and if this team doesn't win, I get into a very bad mood. So I am happy I'm not in that mood today. And the bullpen is a big reason for me not being in that type of mood. Brayan Bello was able to go 6 innings on Monday, only gave up 3 runs, all of which being in the first inning. And then the Rays didn't score after that. It was awesome. It was nice to see But after Bello was pulled after 6 innings, which I would have done too if I was Cora, there was no need to stretch him out any longer. Josh Winckowski was able to come in and pitch an inning. He looked very good, just recorded 2 strikeouts, gave up no hits or no runs. Chris Martin, same thing, pitched 1 inning, had 2 strikeouts and recorded no runs. And then Kenley Jansen just pitched 1 inning and recorded no runs. So seeing zeros across the board is so refreshing and so nice. And granted, those are 3 of the Red Sox best bullpen arms. And it was great that they all got to throw and they each only had to throw an inning. Kenley, I was surprised that he was used once again in a non-save situation. This is the 2nd day in a row that he was used in a non-save situation. I think from Alex Cora's standpoint, he's probably just like, I might as well just throw him. But I certainly hope that Tuesday's game is not a close at the end to the point where they need their closer to come out and close out the game, because Kenley still has good stuff, but he can't really be pushed to throw more pitches than he can handle right now. And I'm fine with him pitching an inning and getting the outs. And it didn't take him very many pitches on Sunday or Monday to do that. Sunday's game was a little bit more rough because he gave up a couple runs in the 9th inning, but still overall he was able to be relatively effective and keep his pitched count down. But now that he pitched again on Monday, he certainly won't be available likely for the rest of the series. And that scares me because the Red Sox do have close games against the Rays quite a bit. It actually happens very often. And the idea of not having the closer available if those games are close, I do worry about it. I hope they don't end up in that situation because that is why he's there. I think Cora's just trying to get him reps. That's all I can really think of. But it was the 2nd day in a row where it was a non-save situation and they had him throw again. I get that would have been the last, opportunity for him to really get into that game, potentially. So Cora was like, I might as well just throw him and lock this one down. Sure. But it's tough to me when he could end up really being missed in the next couple of games. And that's why I've never been thrilled about using him in non-save situations unless he really hasn't pitched in a while and maybe the team has an off day coming up the next day. So 2 non-save situations in a row scares me moving forward, but I trust that Alex Cora knows what he's doing in that situation. And also when it comes to the bullpen in general, they are dominant so much of the time. For a lot of this year, they've actually been good. Recently, overall, they haven't had the best outings as a group. But when you have your best guys out there, like Winckowski, Martin, Jansen, I would even throw Schreiber and Bernardino into that group also, and Pivetta. When any of those guys is on the mound, you can feel pretty confident that the Red Sox are going to get the job done. I'm not saying it happens every time, and those guys have had some, blow-ups on the mound. Every pitcher does at some point. But those are the guys that you want to stick with and keep as your pen moving forward and maybe add some more pieces in the offseason to really round out the bullpen. But overall, those are the guys you can feel confident with. They are dominant. That combination of players that I mentioned. And I like that Winckowski got to throw. I like that Martin got to throw. I just don't know that I feel thrilled about Kenley Jansen being in there for the 2nd day in a row in a non-save situation. So just got to hope that the Red Sox can win in commanding fashion like they did on Monday. So Kenley doesn't have to be used, because if it's a close game, we could have some problems. So good game overall. Great start to the series in Tampa Bay. The Red Sox have 0 room for error at this point. I feel like it's just a broken record at this point. Like, I've been saying this for so long. No room for error if they want the slightest chance. It is certainly nice to have Bernardino back in the pen. He makes a difference and has just been good all season. So we'll see if they can turn it on here in this last part of the season. But that starts with the fans. Got to keep the faith and just believe in this team. And regardless of whether they make the playoffs or not, the Red Sox will still be here. I'll still be here. We'll still be talking Red Sox. So, things could be worse. Things could absolutely be worse. So, like I always say, keep the faith, go Red Sox, and I will catch you on the flip side.